That's what most major corporations do.
And now, like when you go, like, because to make cut and sew, it's very, it's like it's not cheap at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you go to source those particular suppliers, particular fabrics, where you can actually get them at a cheap rate? Was there like a negotiation level that went with these type of manufacturers, or did you just search, find someone and you stuck with them and they're like now your trusted supplier? How does that work to be able to keep costs low and deliver that, that side of things?
All of the above.
All the above. It's like a
All of the
mixture of
above,
everything.
man. I think that's the toughest aspect next to marketing. That's the toughest in when it comes to the retail industry, not just in clothing. I think in any space, manufacturing is so key because I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned in branding is that the product first, product over everything, right? Because if you have a great product, you can always push it, right? And you don't have to speed up your process. If you have something that you can stand behind, like there's a reason you will never be unable to sell a Toyota Camry or Honda Civic, right? Because that product speaks for itself. It's going to get you from point A to point B no matter what. So with the manufacturing, it's difficult because as a new brand, as a young brand, and as a Black brand, because a lot of times you're not working with someone who looks like you, who thinks like you, or who is from your community. There's just not, clothing factories are usually located overseas. And even except you're in the art of making your own product, which is also almost like a bespoke thing, making your own leather goods or your own fedoras, which that's a completely different market, right? If we're talking mass market, mass retail, a lot of times you're going to get into offshore outsourcing. And so one of the biggest challenges that we face is just lack of leverage. You know what I mean? So you really don't have a lot of negotiating power, right? You're almost lucky to work with a good factory, right? Because I visited some of our production factories, and you can just walk in and tell like the money that they put into their factories, the years that they've been making these products. I mean, you're talking about companies that have been in the game of making products for 50, 100, 200 years, right? Like tons of square footage warehouse space, tons of employees, tons of factory equipment and skill set and know-how. So coming in, and you also have to think again, always think like a consumer, right? Like they're a factory, if they're a factory at that level, then they're making products for some of the best brands in the world, right? And so if you're walking in the door asking them to manufacture for you, and your quantity is not going to be anywhere to what they what they would want, that's a whole different, it's a partnership, it's a pitch, right? So you almost have to pitch the manufacturer, or you have to settle for an up and coming manufacturer like yourself, right? Your new brand, work with a new manufacturer who is very much like you on the up and up, but that also involves risk, right? So you have to kind of make make these difficult decisions. So we do a little bit of both. We try to find factories that are excellent in what they do and are top known, renowned manufacturer, and also almost beg them to work with us. And hey, we're going to make this worth your while, because when you run a business, it's not just the customers, your employees, your business partners, and your suppliers too. You have to keep everybody happy, which is where it gets tough, right? Because when you place an order for, say you place an order like that Hustle Over Everything shirt that you guys have, which I need one of those, by the way.
Awesome,
but,
man. Send you one after.
All right, bet. They're relying on you to come back and order more product, right? So it's not just about, hey man, we need to sell this. Like your suppliers are actually like, we need more orders. Or man, like you want to do 20 pieces, 50 pieces, we'll do this right now, but next time it has to be bigger. Or there's all sorts of things, and we're still very much learning. We're not experts, but I think that the manufacturers that we've been able to work with, some of them we found online, some of them we found at trade shows. Some of them just randomly found us. They just sent us an email. We checked them out, and we started working together.
Nice.
But the biggest things I've learned in the manufacturing space is that quality, like I said, for me, okay, there's me and then there's the company. For the business product, the product has to be immaculate. Like we cannot skimp on product because I I really want to be able to stand behind all of our products, right? And we want to be proud about every single product that we have. We want the product. We're a Black brand. It's not easy in this space. People don't look up to Black businesses. They look down on Black businesses. It's just common to think that if you're getting something from a Black business as opposed to Tom Ford or whatever, it's inferior, right? So our goal is to change the narrative and change the stereotype so we can't skimp on product. However, when it comes to dealing with suppliers and manufacturers, what I've personally learned, I guess from a employee of the business standpoint, is that communication is the most important. And you can tell when someone isn't really excited or eager to work with you. Response times, the way the messages are crafted, and whenever you have instances to where you feel like you're not respected or your business and your brand isn't taken seriously, it's almost never going to work out well, because that person just doesn't, your orders are probably going to be late. There's not going to be a lot of quality control placed on your production. So you're just going to have issues. So one thing I look for whenever I'm, working in a manufacturing space or in production stages is, especially with the new manufacturer, is it's a relationship. It's almost like a marriage. Like, are we synchronized on the same wavelength?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, going back to your earlier point, you can't polish a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's real. Mm-hmm. And we've definitely gotten some piece of shits on our shelves. We've had to trash a lot of stuff because we had to make a decision like, are we just going to put this on the shelf and hope that like the customer doesn't notice, or or maybe mark it down or whatever? But at the end of the day, yeah, we can make a couple of dollars, but when your reputation is damaged, you could never recover from that.
Yeah, I hear that. For our listeners, for the hustlers, right, that are looking to get into the fashion game, we had Spencer Badu on. Are you familiar with Spencer Badu, by the way?
But I checked out the podcast and I loved it. He had a lot of great things to say. And I love what he's doing. I always love to see when brothers are killing it.
For sure. Shout out Spencer.
Spencer, bro.
Word. Just to give more value around the hustler that's looking to get those actionable steps to attack the game, right? When they're looking to approach a manufacturer, right? Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that they can negotiate on to get that deal and to close? Is it the time frame of payment? Mm-hmm. What are like some of the things you've done to really put yourself in a good financial position?
Okay, so my angle and my advice on that would be a little bit different. It would be a little bit different from a different angle. I would actually argue that in the beginning, when you're starting out, especially if you really believe in what you're doing, and it's just not going to be a fly-by-night product or a fly-by-night brand, is that you shouldn't focus on negotiations. Because remember, you really have no leverage. You're asking someone it would almost be like a newcomer asking Drake to get on a song with him. You see what I mean? And then asking for like a deal.
Please,
like, you know what I mean? You're not going to get a deal. You're lucky if he does the work, right? So if you want quality manufacturing, I think you should have a cost ceiling. You definitely, and I think that this is something that maybe there's not a lot of conversation on. And it's just not fashion. It's any product. You definitely want to start with the budget of knowing how you're going to make money. What's going to be your selling price? And then, because what people don't know is even though you get the product from the manufacturer, if they sell you, let's say they sell you a t-shirt for $10, and your bulk manufacturing, there's going to be other costs. There's going to be packaging and tags. There's going to be shipping, bulk shipping cost. There's going to be custom and duties if you're not doing the production locally in the States. You're going to have some broker fees when you get the items. You're going to have marketing costs. You're going to have all these markups to where you think you're getting a product for $10, but you find out that it really costs you $35, right? So knowing your price ceiling, and your cost, the floor, and, finding the middle range So if you have a floor, your goal is really not to make money in the beginning. Your goal is to make a product that you can stand behind. You see where I'm going with that? And so making a product that you can stand behind and not having any customer base doesn't usually go hand in hand, because what you really want to do is prove yourself to yourself. And so you have to make a decision if negotiation, getting something at a deal is most important, or if you want absolutely immaculate product that you can stand behind. Because if you're able to get this product out in the consumer space and it does well, it should do well if you've taken your time and selected your manufacturers properly. You're not going to make money, or you make a little bit of money up front. But again, the goal is not to make money in the first couple of stages. The goal is to develop and grow an audience, right? Develop an appetite for your business and your products. And once you do that, you'll get leverage, and you'll get the negotiation tactics will come later, right? Like, I begged you to create 50 units for me. Now I need 2,000. Like, look, anybody will produce 2,000. So here's the price I need. And now negotiation comes into play, because you do have some leverage and some skin in the game.
Interesting. Kind of like a loss leader type of mindset.
Yeah, and maybe not loss leader, which is why I said you have to start with that budget, because you have to know like the price that you were hoping to receive, and you're just able to guesstimate like this is going to cost a little bit more than I anticipated and I expected, but it's not going to kill me, right? You really have to know, because you're accepting. A loss leader would just be whatever it costs to produce, I'm just going to sell it as cheap as possible just to get a lot of units. That's really not what I'm getting at. Okay. I'm just getting at saying, know what your budget costs for you to break even or make money, because breaking even is fine, because if you break even, at least you have enough money to keep the engine going. Because what people don't realize, especially if you're going to be getting into e-commerce, is that you got to get those units out. If you get those units out, now you have people wearing your product, and those essentially are walking billboards for you, right? So your number one goal is to grow an audience and get the products ordered, right? And it might cost you a little bit of money in cost of goods sold, but hey, if it's a product that you can stand behind, that's fine. Because again, if it's a quality manufacturer, they're not going to be jumping up and down to do business with you. Except, of course, if you have a rich uncle and you're able to, meet the high MOQs that they may have, which I wouldn't even advise, because if you don't have an audience, it's going to be almost impossible to push those units.
Gotcha. It's a very interesting take on that. Huh. So one thing that
I'm here for, man, drop some gems, add some value to you guys' podcast, however I can.
Word. Give some big gems. Do you have a question on it?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, so you're at this stage, you've got your products, now it's like getting the word out to your customers, right? Attracting those customers and getting them to be a part of your brand, understand it, consume it, and live the life of like the Southern gent. How did you go on about marketing your business and pushing product out through the e-commerce route?
Man, I think initially it was a struggle, because, like I said, we were very much, I forgot what the word is, just guerrilla marketing and in the trenches, like basically bootstrapping our brand. That's the term I was looking for, bootstrapping, which is meaning we were taking everything that we had and putting it into the brand. And, everybody was working 2, 3, or 4 jobs, just to be able to fund the business and grow to the stage that we're at now. But now it's grown to a level to where we have just enough traction that we know that even if we didn't produce or do any marketing, we're going to get a certain number of sales, right, every month, just because of the amount of traffic that we have coming to our website every month. So now I'm excited because we really get to focus on marketing. We're not basically in the hustle and bustle period of trying to develop and grow the brand. We have tons of staple products, right? We have products that we know people just want, period, and we're struggling to keep up with the demand. And so what that allows us to do now is to take some of our efforts off of products, like focusing on products, and our thing too is not always focusing on new collections, because we want to be a timeless classic brand. We want to be a product almost like a Chuck Taylor. If you think of it, like it never goes out of style. You could wear it, this hat I pretty much just put a bandana over it, but I can take it off and wear it with a suit or a vest or, you know, whatever, a button down. So now with marketing, we're able to really do what we've been wanting to do for the past 5, 6, 7 years, which is live in the brand. Think like a consumer, which we are. Talk about lifestyle, educate people, do more product videos. So a combination of informational, educational content, and a combination of things that like actual lifestyle, like how do people live, right? And show people, you know, how they can live better with basically the products that we've curated and created for them. And so, and that's what happens when we watch some of the best shows. You know, when you watch things like Power or things like what's the other one with Issa Rae? What's the
Insecure?
Insecure, right? Like when we watch these shows, we see ourselves in these shows, right? So it's almost not marketing. It's just telling your brand story. And so if you circle back to what I said earlier, which is if you're a business, your goal is not for people to support you and for you to bug your friends and families, hey, buy from me, buy from me. Your goal is to solve a problem, right? Like there should have been, like acne or, you know, hair loss or like with bevel, like you brought up earlier, Alex, you know, just more resilient clippers that you can take anywhere, cordless, super light, you know, whatever, great marketing, you know. If you're solving a problem and you believe in your product, really, it's really not marketing anymore. It's really just storytelling, because what you should be doing is telling people how your product solves their problem. And I guess if you put the two and two together, that's what people call marketing.
Got you. One thing that I found interesting is that you actually are marketing on Instagram as well. Not Instagram, but like paid platforms like Facebook and Instagram. How has that gone for you? And like, how are you managing that? Has that been like a real traffic driver, or just been like a 10% extra on top?
You pay when you say paid, like you mean like say sponsored posts, like ads and stuff like that?
Exactly. And I've seen some influencer campaigns, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so we don't really do influencer campaigns. We'll do influencer partnerships, and
Okay.
that's I don't know if that would be like a whole another podcast on influencer marketing.
Yeah.
Influencer marketing is tough, and there are things that make the game a little bit more complicated because you're playing small shark, big shark. You know, I mean, sorry, small fish, big fish. You know, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
So with influencers, it's really hard to work with influencers because some of the largest businesses want to work with influencers, and it's just impossible for you to keep up with the spin. You know what I mean? Essentially. So we focus a lot on social media marketing, and there's two schools of thought with social media marketing. There's your organic reach, which is what you curate, and you know people find you. What basically the platform allows you to do. So if we take Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, what else is there? Instagram, of course. Did I already say Instagram?
YouTube, TikTok. I'd say that's probably it.
Okay, so
actual blogs, but who's still
exactly? Yeah, no, exactly. So with social media marketing, with social media, there's two forms. There's the organic reach, which is what the platform would allow you to get. You could have 10,000 followers, but Instagram would only allow you to reach like 1% of that per post, right? So it's like no matter your following, they're only giving you this much of the pie, right? And then maybe if it's a really popular post for them to, I always try to think like these businesses, right? Because it's like they're trying to make money, I'm trying to make money. Like, you know, every relationship in my life is always like it has to be mutually beneficial. So this is my thought process. So they're going to give you an access to what they've let you build on their platform, right? And so that's great, but then you're not even reaching your 100% following, whatever you amass. So you need to be able to, whatever audience you've generated, you need to be able to collect information and basically maximize what you've been allowed to do with organic reaches on platforms. And then there's paid content, which, you know, we prefer to use. We do both the organic reach, of course, because it's free and it's just whatever we're able to create with our creativity and our time and our, you know, the influences that we partner with to market our items and love our items. Shout out to our influencers, by the way, Urban Randall, Andre Khan, all of y'all, Travis White. We have a few
Irvis,
dope dudes.
Irvis killing it for sure. What do you mean by partner versus influencer marketing? Like, are you saying that is like an affiliate level, or is it like a profit share? Like, dive deeper there.
So partner in sense of we're building a brand. We're very, very much in the growth phase. So we focus on content. Our thing is to create killer content, right? An influencer wants to grow his brand and brand presence, right? So we're funding our creative projects, right? Like typically a brand will send an influencer an item, and the influencer has to do all the work, right? Has to come up with the content creation, photograph or film the content themselves, and edit it or whatever, or pay someone to do it. So that's like it's almost like outsourcing, right? Whereas we're doing our own content. And so we're in Houston, influencers in Houston that we've created. We've created a bond with, and sometimes we do pay our local influencers, but it's more of like a partner relationship to where we're saying, hey, we're already going to create this dope content. You have an ambition to grow your brand and include your brand presence. You love the product, so we're doing a photo shoot anyway. Come in a photo shoot. We'll let you put your spin or whatever in it, whatever suits your personal style. Put you on the website homepage, includes you in our paid promotion, so you're getting more reach, right? It's almost like a mutually beneficial relationship to where they literally just have to show up. They love the brand. It's something they would wear, something that they would recommend, which is true influencing, right? Like you want people to do what you're doing because you believe in it, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be paid. Not saying that there's anything wrong with paid partnerships or paid influencing, but it gets really tricky with that. And there's no problem because the influencers do put in work, like I explained. If a brand is sending an influencer something and the influencer has to come up with creating all the content, except the influencer just really loves the brand or just doesn't have the audience to demand payment, they technically should be paid because you're doing the work. But for us, we try to, it's almost like open arms. If you fit and you would love to work with the brand, hey, come on down, but it's part of our bootstrapping mentality because our number one goal is to stay in business. And so we have to find ways to be strategic with our partnerships, be strategic with our funding, because 80 to 90% of our revenues goes back into the business in terms of R&D, taxes, new product, restocks. People want more colorways, people want faster shipping, people want a better website that's more user friendly. There's so much cost, and it's just so many things, and then we're talking from a small business and a Black owned business. We just have less resources, so we're always finding ways to be creative with how we're running the business.
What's like your average spend like on marketing, and what's like
on marketing, man? We've actually been trying to fine tune it. There are times where we spend as much as 10% of our revenues on marketing, and we're trying to change that now. But in those days, we were very much like I said, these platforms give you organic reach, and they're getting even better about limiting your organic reach, right? And the nature of retail is, except you're on a subscription platform, you have to find a new audience, right? Like I can only sell you so many hats. I can only sell you so many boots. So, and again, back to thinking like a customer, we're not trying to overwhelm our fans with product, right? What we want to do is grow a bigger family. We want to grow a bigger consumer base. That makes it easier on us for many different reasons. So now, if we're only going to be able to get a certain percentage of our organic reach, there's no point just creating content for that same audience, because it's almost equivalent of yelling louder and louder in the same room, right? You have to go to a different room. So sometimes it spends as much as 10%, but we're trying to get smarter. We're not in business to enrich Facebook and Instagram and Google and YouTube. So, we're getting on newer platforms. TikTok, we're strengthening our YouTube presence, basically just trying to, because we believe the way these contents are built are based on algorithms. Algorithms are based on attention, right? And it's the same way TV works. People want to watch the game. So the bigger the game, the bigger the ad spend, right? The bigger the ad demand because you have so many eyeballs. So what we're trying to do is fine tune. How do we get better about lowering our A costs, our advertising cost of sales? So we want to be able to spend a smaller percentage of our revenues on our advertising so we can just improve our margins. We got to stay in business. Every business's number one goal should be to stay in business.
Without a doubt. One thing I find a lot of businesses are doing now are either one, taking all their advertising inside or hiring out. What have you done? And what do you think?
When you say taking, can you break that down a little bit for me?
Sure.
Like outside versus inside?
All right, so you have your shoot with Irv and like your influencers and your models, and that make a crazy editorial like you did, to celebrate like I forget the exact name of it, but the prints that you had, that was Chris, by the way, Chris.
Okay.
And then you're like, all right, I'm going to go now and learn Facebook advertising and Google advertising and TikTok advertising, like paid advertising, or do you go like, all right, it's time to go on Facebook advertising. Let me go find the agency to do it and work with them.
I don't want to offend people, man, but I think that when it comes to social media advertise, like, let me ask y'all a question. Would you guys pay somebody to run your Instagram account?
I wouldn't pay someone to run my Instagram account. I'll pay someone to do my ads though.
Okay. Yeah. So I
I
look at, I guess for what we're doing, since it's not so, it's such a niche brand, right? Like you have to understand it in a certain type of way. I think sometimes, I think we have to learn. Not saying that we wouldn't pay advertisers, but everything in business is based on ROI, right? Like, so I'm willing to pay you if you can guarantee me I pay you $10,000, you're going to bring back 100K in sales.
100,
because
okay.
Yeah, because like $10,000 at that point, if you bring back 20, like product cost is like 40%, 50%. And if I'm paying you 10, right, that's already 50%. So, you start to see like it doesn't really add up. So it's just like, especially in the beginning when you don't have money to burn, I think that if you're a bigger corporation and you have money to throw and like try things out, but when you're in a situation when every single dollar counts, and these platforms are so new and always changing, right? So for example, I could have paid someone to do ads on TikTok, but nobody really understands TikTok yet, right? Like most of the stuff going on TikTok is just dances. Most of the stuff going on Instagram is glamour pics, but there's little hacks. Like if you have a business or service, there's little things that it's almost impossible for you to find out if you study it and do it day in, day out, right? So I won't say I'm against paying advertising agencies, but I do think that there's a lot to be said. Okay, I'll put it like this. I think in the beginning, it's probably, in my opinion, best to figure it out first, to learn the platforms, learn how they work, especially in conjunction with your brand. Because we're not a brand that just sells like, bespoke suits, whatever. We're a brand with a story. We're a brand to where you literally fall in love with what you see, the essence of a gentleman. It's not about like, oh man, like a dope hat, a dope boots. It's a complete ethos, right? And that's the marketing engine behind it. So I think it would be hard. It wouldn't be fair for me to hit up someone who just does like advertising for, I don't know, vacuum cleaners or whatever, and sells like 100,000 units. Like, I don't think that person could understand my business. Yeah. But I do think that if you learn the platforms and understand how the audiences on these platforms can benefit, because again, you're solving problems, right? Can benefit from my products, and what kind of ad content do I need to create? Once you kind of get a gauge for that, I think you can then start paying people to run your ads. Because to me, in the beginning, it's almost like you're outsourcing the second most next to product, most important aspect of your business, which is telling your story. And that's very difficult to do.
I agree. It's almost like having a translator and expecting that translator to go into a whole other country and be able to communicate on your behalf exactly what your brand is, and expect that goes through. You definitely need to learn the language first before you go to another country. So this is for anybody out there. If you're thinking about going to paid advertising, first learn yourself and get the language down before you get in, because it's a lot. It's not easy. It's a beast, you know.
To add to that point, there's just real quick, there's two books that kind of talk about this topic. One is David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that read, but basically what he talks about is everybody thinks that bigger is better, but when you're smaller, you actually have a lot of advantages, which this is one of those things. When you're smaller, you have more time. When you're smaller, you're not as big of a brand where you can't afford to make this risky post. And like you guys made this TikTok about being in McDonald's, or Owen did being in McDonald's or whatever. And if he had a business, he could have done that for his business. But if he was a really big corporation, he wouldn't be able to take that risk because he'd be so scared about his perception and all of that. So I think when you're really small, like you should just try things out. It's a balance between not spreading yourself too thin, right? And also trying to taste as much as you can so you can understand. And once you understand, then you outsource it. You bring somebody, you either hire someone or you find an agency who can do the work for you. The second read next to David and Goliath is our boy on Shark Tank, Damon John. Right? And the concept behind it is like money is not the answer, right?
Hold on. Just repeat that one more time. You kind of cut out for a quick second. Repeat that book name.
It's called The Power of Broke.
Yes.
Damon John.
Yes.
So basically the concept is that money doesn't solve, money isn't the answer. You know, a lot of people want to start businesses and they go fundraising and, you know, again, not that there's anything wrong with these things, but just know what you're getting yourself into. They go take out big loans or loans on, you know, whatever. But when you have money, sometimes you get lazy and or you don't try every option because you have the money, right? So if you have $50,000 in your bank account, you're not against going to take out an ad for the radio for $10,000, right? Whereas if you only have $500 in your bank account, you're going to figure out everything. You're going to be like, man, how can I get my business booming on Pinterest? You're going to read articles. How can I come up with this little hacks to take advantage of the new feature on Instagram Reels, and just do some behind the scenes with my business? And, you know, but so there's a creative aspect that comes with trying to do things on a very small scale and using time as opposed to financial resources, because you have to pick one. You either spend the money or you spend the time.
Agreed. Yeah, that's such a good point. You either spend the money or spend the time. That goes into everything, whether it be school, like learning.
1,000%, man.
Yeah, like that's one thing I realized when I looking back, I was like, damn, if I had just like not gone to school and I actually spent time in the business learning, like the networks would have been smaller, but the business goals gains could have been bigger as well, you know. Because
you're just able to employ your resources better, because it's not so much of a mindset of employing people or you know, finding help or paying for help. It's how to maximize those resources. Because when you pay someone, there's a scope agreement, like what am I supposed to do? And if you understand the project better, you're able to narrow the scope. Like if you pay someone to run ads and you know, hey, people love 30-second sound bites of, you know, podcast information with the caption, with the title, with the link, blah, blah, blah. You can say, I need 10 pieces of content, 5 for Instagram, 3 for Facebook. The ones for Facebook and YouTube have to be a 16:9 aspect ratio. You see what I'm saying? All these kind of things that you figure out work for your business, that person isn't going to have that information, because with everything online right now, there's so many different silos to where, you know, you guys know things that I would never know because you're in the podcast game and you've been in it for, I don't know, however long. And there's just things that you understand that a traditional marketer might not.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact, man. Absolutely. So as we work towards wrapping up, man, a few things I just want to touch on. one of my favorite, I don't know if I'll say favorite yet, you know, one of my artists that I'm starting to like and really gravitate to is Toby.
Okay.
How did you end up collaborating with him?
Oh man, which content did you see? I'm not, just to make sure we're on the same page as far as content collaboration.
Well, I saw the jacket.
Oh, the jacket.
Okay. The jacket.
So Toby and I and another one of my business partners, Tunde, are from this little town in Houston. We grew up in this town called Alief. You know, we all went to high school in the same district, so it's kind of like a family. And there's like a, you know, SWAT, Southwest Alief, Texas is you know, it's just a movement. You know, we're really proud of where we're from, and we really try to stick together and support each other. So I'd known Toby. We you know, went to different high schools, but we have a lot of mutual friends, and you know, we've been on like food drives and different, you know, not-for-profit events together. And, you know, we just became friends. Like in the beginning when he had this really dope event called the Dope Art Show. And, you know, we'd show up, you know, everybody would talk about it, post about it, you know, try to encourage other people, like this whole artistry, entrepreneurship movement, you know, just try to support. So, you know, we always had a relationship. And you know, his work ethic is amazing, as you guys see what he's been able to accomplish. So as he grew and as we grew, you know, we'd been in the e-commerce retail space, apparel to be exact, for, you know, 5-6 years. We'd made a couple of varsity jackets. He was going on tour. He wanted to make a jacket for his movement, for his Ivory tour. And, you know, we already had, this is where network and community is important, right? Like we need to push each other, because whatever you achieve and whatever I achieve, when we come together, we're just that much greater. So, I mean, he has an amazing fan base, an amazing audience, and just an amazing resume. You know, I was like, yeah, like no problem, man. Like, you know, he wanted the product. He needed the product fairly quickly. It was kind of like, I think he just had like a random idea that, you know, this would be something that my fans would appreciate. And, you know, we already have the technical know-how, the specs and all that stuff. So he wanted a jacket made. You know, we had a conversation. He told me what he wanted and we just made it happen. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's beautiful, man.
Absolutely, bro.
Yeah. So as you wrap up, is there anything we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
Man, you guys asked some great questions. I'm actually impressed with the amount of research. I checked you guys' podcast. I wasn't familiar at first, but, you know, I've seen some people who've been on the podcast, and you guys asked some amazing questions. I would just, you know, you guys look from the outside looking in, and having done this podcast and spoke with a lot of entrepreneurs. What is it that you think that someone like myself, like as a summary question, what's the best value that I could provide to you guys listeners?
Like what's the best thing you can
question.
provide our listeners? Oh man.
Yeah, that's a great one. Holy smoke. Okay. What keeps you going through the harder times, and how do you stay down? I think is one of the ones that our listeners could really get value from. Also, a case study of real money. Like, I put down X and got back Y. This is how powerful my business is, and this is why you should pay attention to me.
Okay. I got to write those down because my ADD be on 10. So,
anything you want to add to that?
No, you know, like, it's actually great that you asked how was it like you got out, you go through the hard times, right?
Yeah.
And this is what, like the other day we were having this conversation, like I was talking to you and I was really like venting, and I was like, bro, like we got to start seeing more and more and more. Like I want to see this and that. And I was so down because I just come from a cottage and everything. And I just felt like I was so hungry for success, but you've been at it for like years and you're still like, you're waiting to see that light of day pop, like where you can still keep having faith. So I think for you, you've been at this business for, as you said, 7 years, I believe. And being in fashion is hard. It's a capital intensive
I'm
business.
not gonna lie, I've thought about quitting sometimes. Like,
yeah,
I think I'm past that stage, but it's hard.
Yeah, like how do you get over that hump? Because a lot of people quit. I have a lot of friends, at Ryerson, we have like a incubator called the Fashion Zone, where we have a lot of fashion startups, and a lot of them folded, because of like, hey, we can't, just mental money, loans that they owe, that they can't keep the business going forward. So I'd love to know you, like, how do you keep going no matter what? Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's a loaded question. I think is a great way to end the podcast. I'm actually going to take that one last because I think that has so many there's so many ways you could break that down. Yeah, there's so many. Oh man, it's such a great question because I think it's something people need to hear. But okay, profit. Give you a rough example. I'm just going to. Okay, I'll start with a sample case study, a sample product, one of our best-selling products. I know that if we put up $10,000, right, whatever we could order for $10,000 for that product, right? I'm not going to get into cost because it just gets really complicated and all that type of stuff. But if we put up $10,000 for that product, we will, and that product sells, right, with minimum marketing, we would generate $50,000 to $60,000, right? And so now the magic question is, how do we ensure we don't spend higher than $40,000 to $50,000 from the point that that product is ordered to that product being sold? And it's on two back ends. The easiest one is cost, right? Like shipping. Like you have to be a student of the game, understanding your shipping metrics, figuring out a marriage between product presentation and product weight, because everybody wants something fancy, but at the end of the day, you got to make money, right? So it has to look good and it has to be lightweight. You need to understand what's going on in the economy right now. I don't know if you guys know, with retail or anything product related, not only is there COVID, but there's also like Trump tariffs, right? So you're going to get hit with a 25% price tag on anything that comes into the United States from China because of the whole, economic Cold War or whatever. So that's going to drive up your cost. So your 10,000 is going to turn into, how much is that? I need a calculator. My brain is fried today. You guys asked me some great questions, but your 10,000 could turn into $18,000 real quick just from bringing stuff in. So you have to know so many things. You have to be a student of the game. But on a perfect day, you can literally, in my business, in my game, I know that I can, on a good day, I can enjoy any 30 or 40% profit margin. Just depends on the climate, depends what's going on. The other side I was telling you guys about is sales. Like, I'm against doing product sales because I figure out that, we're going to price, like we've talked about this already, we're going to price our products competitively and something that our customers can afford. And we don't want to be in the sale promotion business because we look at people buying our product like an investment. And when you discount your products, for me, in my opinion, it does two things. It messes with your formula, like we talked about. Like, Alex, you asked me earlier about cost negotiation, right? When you have this budget, right? And in the beginning, you have to do all these things. So disregard what I'm saying, new entrepreneurs. But in the long run, with sales, it starts to make your revenue choppy. You thought you were going to make $50,000, but you had all these sales and, buy one, get one free and all these things. And it's like, you didn't make 50 on the top end, you made 35, right? So dollars and cents. And then your costs go up, tariffs, packaging, employee costs, whatever. Something breaks in an office warehouse, need a new computer, need a new camera, need this, need that. You spent 38, you lost $3,000, right? It could get ugly real fast. So knowing the numbers is really important. But like I said, spending 10 and being able to get 30 to 40 back in profit on a perfect day, that's like a 300% return. I don't know a market you can get that kind of, I know you can do it in a lot of markets like real estate, but it just speaks to entrepreneurship because you have control. And if you perfect your artistry in terms of not just the work that you're doing, like understanding your business, you can figure out a way to live off your business. It may not be millions of dollars, but you can figure out a way to earn enough income. Like you guys as podcasters can come up with a formula to figure out how much ad revenue, how much views, and how much all these things you can get and run your business and be able to do it to a point where you can sustain. Which brings me to my next question: is how do you stay down? Man, it's hard. Business is so hard. My favorite person to listen to about business and keeping shit real is Gary Vee. I'm sure you guys have heard Gary Vee. There's a lot of guys I love to listen to, but Gary Vee is one of them because I think sometimes with business and life motivational speakers and people we look up to, athletes, entertainers, or whatever, no one sees the work that goes into it. It's really difficult. And so the first thing that's helped me as a personal testimony is contentment, right? So when you start your business, you have to figure out, I'm going to jump around, but everything kind of ties in together. You have to figure out the why, right? What did you do it for? I started a podcast. I started a apparel brand. I started an automotive modification company or whatever. Why did you start the business, right? Because why should mean that you wanted to solve a problem. If we think about all the successful businesses, Uber, Airbnb, Amazon, Apple, all these products solve a problem, right? They serve a purpose. They're not successful off of support, right? Can we agree? Like no one's like, hey, I'm going to support Uber.
No.
Now I got somewhere to be like right now. I need this to be here in 5 minutes, right? And I need to know how much it's going to cost. And I need to be able to come back at an affordable price. Solves the problem. So you need to know why you're starting your business, right? And then you also have to ask yourself, how am I going to find a balance between serving an audience, right? And keeping myself happy. So I think that you actually have to dream out and live out your success. There was a podcast on a show called Matt Develler that was very enlightening to me. Can't remember the gentleman's name, but basically he said dreams don't come true, decisions do, right? So yeah, you have to dream big, but you have to start making decisions, right? And so the decisions on how you live, I don't hear enough people talking about this. Your decisions on how you live usually determines how successful your business will be, so to give you guys an example of contentment, I made personal decisions like what type of neighborhood I was going to live, where my wife and I were going to buy a house, how much we were going to spend on the house, what kind of wedding we were going to have. In the early stages of my business, I sold my car because I'm like, I don't need this car. No, it's not serving me. You literally have to learn how to be content, because what I find is that if you're not content, you're never going to be able to take your business to that next level, because your personal desires are always going to get in the way of building your business, which is a huge undertaking, a huge desire, right? It's impossible to always want to go out and party, always want to go on vacation, always want to go out to eat and do certain things, in startup phase and build phase, because you don't have the money and you don't have the time. Majority of your money and your time needs to go in your business. So if you're able to figure out, we all love nice things, right? But say, Alex, you said, if I'm able to get a 3-bedroom house or 2-bedroom townhome in Toronto, and I was able to, have this much money in the bank account, or I've always wanted an A4, an A3, or whatever. If I have these two things, these will keep me happy, and everything else is in excess, right? And you have to keep that commitment to yourself, because what happens is with success, like your appetite grows larger and larger and larger, right? Like you always want to do more, which is fine for business appetite. But if your personal appetite continues to grow, it becomes hard, because now your business is almost like this little kid that needs all your attention, But if you don't want to be enslaved by your personal desires, because it's difficult to do both. And that's the way that I've been able to, people will see me like, oh man, how are you able to do this? I just made sacrifices because I knew that with contentment, once I accomplished certain things that I like, as far as it, because we're all consumers, consumption wise, I was going to taper off my consumption. Like I was just going to learn how to be happy with what I had. And if I got more, fine, right? It's a different mentality, and it's a complete mental shift, because now if you train yourself to be happy with what you have, most of your joy is going to become your purpose, which should be your business, right? You started this business because you wanted to solve a problem. And now you're not in a position where you're either financially a slave, because I think that's the reason a lot of businesses fail, because I think that the entrepreneur lifestyle and the entrepreneur lifestyle are very, very different, right? And you have to be able to to separate the two and live in a way that's going to be congruent with your business. And so the last point is that everything really has to come back to your vision. Like, except you're doing a flip, and there's different types of businesses. Some businesses are just hustles. Some people do real estate from a hustle perspective because they want to, they want to flip. They want to put in 100,000 property and they want to sell it for 300, right? There's really no passion behind it, and that's fine. But a lot of businesses that people start, like when I look at you guys or most of your listeners, you guys as a podcast or most of your listeners, people are trying to create something that brings you a certain type of joy that money can't buy, right? And that's going to take a lot out of you. So you have to figure out how to make your business a lifestyle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking like your business is just, you're just going to start this business and you're going to become a millionaire like in 2 to 5 years, a lot of times it's not going to happen. And when it doesn't happen, you're going to run out of steam, right? But if you accept that we're going to do this, I'm just using you guys because I can see your faces and I'm talking to you. If you guys accept that we're going to do this podcast, we love it. It's growing. We can see the results. We're just going to get more creative. And if, as you're giving back content, it's just going to keep growing. And if you're able to figure out how to make just enough money to sustain, that's the trick, right? Because if you have nothing's wrong with being a millionaire, right? I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying. But if your business is based on you being able to become a millionaire, you're not going to focus on things that grow the business. You're going to focus on things that make money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like we could come out with a product this winter with jackets to sell for $750 or whatever. Find the right people to place the product on, find all the right celebrities and athletes, and we could make a couple $1 million this winter. But I also know in my heart that that's not sustainable, and that's not what I'm living for, right? And if I did those things, it would wear me out, and it's not sustainable. And we may not be here in 2025. So if you try to figure out and boil it back to making your business a lifestyle and contentment, man, sky's the limit. And all the things that people think that they want, a lot of times if you immerse yourself in your passion, your ambition, your business, you'll get those things tenfold. And if it's a Ferrari or a trip to Greece, like, it happens, but just don't focus on the money.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
man.
Couldn't agree more.
But what point to end on?
Man, I hope I was able to bring you guys some value and content throughout this great interview.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, I just wanted to add to your contentment. That's one thing I also like struggle with sometimes. It's like I've been living in the same spot for like whole of uni. I've graduated. I've been there like 5 years, right? So it's like a basement apartment. I share it with like 2 awesome guys. It's really nice, but I want change. And I know, like, I don't know if you know how the market here in Toronto is for real estate, but it's like really, really expensive. So I want to like move out and have a nicer place, but then I also want to build a business, and I don't want to be forking out like $1,500 a month just to like sustain this lifestyle. Well, I have a nice spot. It's downtown. You know what I mean? It's like
I got
But
you.
then I want to, yeah, I want to
Yeah,
like get,
sometimes you can compromise. So my question to you would be, is there a way, because change is sometimes is needed and it's refreshing. Is there a way
yeah,
to like, would you be willing to move with a roommate? Maybe just, one guy in an apartment, maybe close, maybe not that big, maybe you guys share, maybe it's just a 2x1 or whatever. Like, are you able to bring about change, but still make it sustainable because you have this appetite to create a business? So can you get change and still be in a standpoint to where you're not putting yourself in a financial bind? I think those are the little things that change everything
yeah,
about entrepreneurship. Because like, I'll tell you, like, just a real quick point. My whole thing was like, I go to college, grind hard, but I've always been a grinder. But then I'm a car guy. I loved my car. I had an M3 at the time, stick shift. Like, I got a shift, man. Like, that's just me. But
Mm.
man, we started this business and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But as stuff started growing, like we started doing more products, we're doing coats, and here I am paying $500-$600 on a car note. I'm like, man, this shit isn't serving me, right? Like, so I sold the car. I put the car up. Thankfully, they hold their value. I saved a little bit of money, sold the car, and I took whatever money I made from selling the car, and I bought a cash car. I bought a 2003 car. This was in 2016. I bought a 13-year-old car. It was clean, everything, and that was just one less thing that I had. And I still made it look nice. I didn't drive. It was a beater, but it wasn't a beater. I just got an older Audi, put some wheels on it, made it to what I like. So I was able to find a compromise. Like, no, it's not the Beamer that I love, but it's still a nice car. But this decent car that's not everything I want is going to allow me to get to where I want to be quicker in a way that I basically, it was like my way of holding myself accountable, because I was like, if I'm doing everything I want to do, I should be able to go out and buy another car that I want in 5 to 10 years, right? It's just a car, right? It's just a place. And I mean, fast forward, I was able to get something else now because, when I got rid of the car, man, it seems like the business took off, but the business really didn't take off. What happened was I had more time and resources. I had more fuck around money, right? I was able to go out and buy a better lens because I wasn't spending money on a car payment every month. I was able to buy more photography equipment. I was able to fly to more trade shows, all these things that were so intangible. And my lack of contentment in my earlier years of the business was literally holding me back.
Yeah, that's so real, man. Don't let anything hold
Like, you
you
guys
back.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Most definitely. Most definitely. It's always good to see somebody really doing it and learn from them, and really speak to them. Listeners, did you enjoy it? DM us. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, this was a lot of gems dropped into this. Real chats, bro. I really
Maybe we
appreciate it.
could do it again soon. Maybe we could
Part
come
two.
back for a part two. Yep.
Yeah,
And
bro.
Most
Absolutely.
the feedback and whatever people want to know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy to share, because I really think that like we said at the beginning of the interview, we need more people like us to do everything that we're doing. We need more podcasts with young Black men. We need more entrepreneurs who are busting ass, to have a space, to have a voice, because we've been doing this for so long, and literally this is like the first podcast I've been on, because again, like I said, nobody cares but us. We have to build our own spaces, eco spaces, and communities, and when we do that, people are going to notice the hard work and the effort. Right. Nobody's not going to LeBron James games because he's Black, right? That shit just doesn't happen.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. So we boss up and we see each other on the other side.
Create those ecosystems, those networks, those frameworks. So the only people we rely on are ourselves.
Can't settle. We got to stop settling. And that will be my last point. Like, the check is not always it, because a lot of times with the check, you have no influences, you have no power, you don't have a seat at the table, right? So which is why every conversation I have is rarely about money. Even when I have partnerships with like athletes and celebrities, we never ask for like a payment or whatever. Even, sometimes where, we may give them a ton of product. It's not about the money, it's about the relationship, because we understand that we're very much on the build stage. And yes, it would be nice to get hundreds and $1,000s to even, I love doing brand collabs. Like, we get other brands and put them in our products, like things that complement what we don't have, like say headphones like you guys have on now. We're not going to charge them, especially if they're Black, because it's like, hey, you do good work. Your work needs to be seen. And there has to be that mentality of accountability and community, right? Like, I owe you guys my story, right? It's not just for me. It's for everybody to see and to be inspired, because we're all inspired by someone. So we have to develop a deeper sense of giving back. But at the same time, each person has to make sure they're putting forth their best effort. So help me help you. And those are words that I live by.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah.
Man, thank you once again, man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, this was great.
Anytime you guys know where to find me, you know, I'd love to come back for another one. This was dope. I wish you guys much success. Yeah, man, keep up the hard work. I love what you guys are doing. I love the branding. And yep, a lot of room, a lot of opportunity out here. I'd love to see you guys blow this thing up.
Appreciate that. All right, so hold on after. Let me close it out. You're going to chat for a quick second after.
All right, bet.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So the hustle is what you can control. So control your grind and control your life. This is the Hustle Over Everything podcast. Peace.
Peace out.